Hey guys, how you doing? This is معتز اسماعيل speaking. This is our lecture number 4 and chapter 11, engagement and learning. Let's go very fast for the definition here, which is what is meant by engagement. Engagement here, we define engagement as a meaningful psychological interaction between the learners and the instructional environment that promotes the achievement of the learning goal. So it's actually an interaction, psychological interaction between the teachers and the learner and the student, and it has to be an environment of learning and teaching in order to have a certain specific behavioral and learning goal. We have 8 generative learning strategies here developed by Froehlich and Meyer 2015. The first strategy is summarizing, and then mapping, drawing, imagining, self-testing, self-explaining, teaching, and enacting. The first one, summarizing, is when you have a written or create a written and oral summary of the material in the lesson. So when you provide a summary by yourself or oral summary, what is written on oral, then it's considered to be summarizing. It's to give the main points of the information you have or the material you have. Mapping is when you create a representation, a picture, a triangle, or bullet points. These are called for the keys ideas in the lesson, and we call it mapping. It's to draw a map for the information you have in the material. Drawing, when you create a drawing, a kind of picture that depicts the key and material in the lesson. So all the information you have in the material is drawn and written in a form of image, so you can remember it in the exam. Imagining is when you imagine a drawing that depicts, when you imagine it, when you keep it in your imagination, and in order to recall it inside the exam. Self-testing is when you give yourself a practice test on the material. You ask yourself questions, alright, and test whether you understood the information or not. Self-explaining is when you create a written or oral explanation of portions of the lesson that you identify as confusing. So you go to the hardest points, the most difficult one, and then try to give a very small explanation for them in order to understand them and digest the information. Teaching is when you explain the material in the lesson to others. When you teach other friends, other students, this will help you digest it way better. And the last one is the best one, is the act out the material in the lesson. So when you act it out, you will definitely understand it. For example, if you have a short story or drama, then you will definitely, if you act it out, you will definitely understand it better. And so engagement here, we have 2 kinds of engagement. The first one is behavioral engagement, and the other one is psychological engagement. Behavioral engagement is an overt action by the learners during learning, such as creating a written or oral summary of the lesson, or creating a written or oral explanation of portions of the lesson. So when you explain or summarize the whole lesson, the whole material, or part of it, we call it behavioral engagement. And this will involve clicking on screen object, contributing to an online discussion, writing in a text box, underlining text, and playing a game. All of these are considered to be behavioral engagement. And we have the other kind, is psychological engagement. And it refers to a mental activity when you're using your own mental way, or using your mentality to promote the achievement of the learning objective. And this will include, for example, when you attend the relevant material, organize the materials into structure, or integrate it into reference prior knowledge into your own practical life. So try always, when you try to keep information, try to connect it to your own real life. We have here engagement grid, which has 4 squares. The first square is behavioral active with low or relevant mental activity, which means that you behaviorally active, you have such kind of behavior, you try to summarize the points and put it in order and make drawing and imagine it, but with irrelevant mental activity, you're not psychologically engaged to it. And then we have mindless and passive. Nor psychological nor behavioral activity are in this kind of process of learning. So you are actually relaxing, you're not making any kind of psychological or behavioral effort. Number 4 is mentally active with the behavioral activity. Okay, so your mental and your way of organizing the materials are in the process of learning. And 4, which is the highest, I guess, is behaviorally and mentally active. So your mentality is active along with your preparation for the material. Let's see how these things actually go, and we will see how we can deal with them. All right. We have these quadrants. The first quadrant. The first quadrant includes activities that are high in behavioral engagement but low in psychological activity. For example, learners were behaviorally active when they playing the game, but in fact some of that activity interfered with learning compared to individuals who viewed slides. So if you play a game, for example, you are actually behaviorally active, but the amount of information you take from the game is not as you take it from the slides. Alright, so the information taken from the slide is much bigger than in a game. So you are behaviorally active since you prepared it and designed the game, but psychologically not that active. Quadrant 2 represents what we call couch potato mode. It's resting mode, when you sit on a place and you're not doing anything. And for example, here when you have a kind of meditation and you're relaxing, you're doing yoga or you're praying, you're not making any kind of behavioral nor psychological engagement. Quadrant number 3 and 4 are instructional methods, because both of them are high, and appropriate psychological engagement with either with or without behavioral activity. When your mental is working, whether you have any kind of engagement or not, but you're forcing your mind to understand the concept, right? So this is very common in the instructional mode. It is used for teaching and learning. And for example, if you are completing a practice exercise and it proposes the achievement of the learning objectives, it will fall with the quadrant number 4. Alright, then we have here methods of how we can actually promote engagement. We have graphics with texts, alright, and then we have engage in the supported drawing, so we have graphics and drawing. And we have collaborative observation of tutoring. If you tutor someone else, it will help you understand more the concept or the material. If you teach others, and we call it teach backs. Teach back. You teach your friend, and your friend teaches you back. And asking learners to make self-explanation. It is very important for digesting the information. And to answer relevant questions. You have to ask yourself a question. So ask learners to answer relevant questions. You take a text and then you provide questions after the text in order to be more beneficial for the students and be more active and more promoting for digesting the information. Peer teaching, here there is a group of 3 groups done by great researchers by Verla and Mayer, and we have the greater group, they have a control group, and then we have what we call it the experimental group. One of these 2 groups actually give a videotape lecture before the text. One just read it, and the other one is giving a video. The third one is prepared for the teaching the material, but they didn't teach it. And the last one is used for prepare for the teaching and already teach it in the classroom. Alright? And what the result shows is that those who prepare to teach and actually teach the material in the classroom resulted in better learning than simply reading the lesson in preparation of test. So when you study it's not enough for you. You have to go for preparing for teaching it. And then you teach it. You actually teach it for friends or students in order to digest and understand the information better. Alright, why this? Because the researcher says here it's not sufficient to prepare to teach. It's not enough. You have to teach it for the students. And then the combination of preparation and actual teaching can yield better long-term understanding and will last in the memory. If you look in here, for example, it's going to be much easier for you to understand this diagram, and you will see the study here, prepare to teach and prepare to teach and teach. So you see the differences here between the maximum score, test score, students who actually prepare and teach prepare to teach and teach, they got the highest grades. Prepare to teach has the medium grade, and only study has the lowest number and score of comprehension. Let's go very fast to the concept of promoted self-explanation. And a self-explanation question asks the learners to explain the concepts or principles. And for example, if you're reading any kind of text and then you ask a student what is meant by this and what is meant by that, what is the definition of this concept, what are the principles of such a thing, then you will definitely see how much is important to understand the text. And you will see here Schwarm and Wrinkle 2007 asked students teachers to study examples of well-designed and poorly designed example problems, and they found that explanation group, self-explanation, those who explain every single thing, outperform, they have better performance, the control group that had no self-explanations, but only when they did not have access to provide explanations as feedback. Alright, so when they don't have any kind of explanation, they have poor performance than those who have self-explanation. We have practice here. We define practice as behavior engagement. In behavior engagement, that initiates, starts, appropriate psychological engagement. Alright, so it's not any kind of behavior engagement. No, it's the only behavior engagement that promotes, initiates, starts psychological engagement. That in turn promotes achievement of learning goals. Right, so it initiates psychological engagement and promotes achievement of learning goals. That is what we call it practice as behavior engagement. So deliberate practice is defined as conscious rehearsal, training, practice of knowledge and skills that focuses on specific performance gaps, typically supported by a coach. So if you actually have a lesson on cars, how you can mend a car or how to construct a building, but you didn't actually practice and do it many times, you will never have the performance, the best performance. If you actually read a story or a drama, a play, and you didn't rehearse it, you didn't act it out before you act it in front of the audience, then you will have a disastrous performance. Alright. Well, these are some summarized points of the research, and probably you should go through them very fast, and that's what I'm actually looking for here in the e-learning. Engagement opportunities that promote appropriate psychological processing in the absence of behavioral activities such as relevant graphics or examples. So we have engagement opportunities. You can consider graphics and examples are good engagement opportunities. Behavioral adjuncts to didactic segments of instructions. For example, if you have self-examination questions, collaborative discussions, and recorded tutoring sessions, this will help you a lot understand it in terms of behavioral engagement. And then we have minimal support engagement of such creating drawings, sketch, or writing a sample of a text will help you understand the context. Alright, and then we have minimal behavior engagement assignments that defeat psychological engagement, such as the game. Game actually is that defeat appropriate psychological engagement, such as the game shown in the figure 11.1. Assignments that involve student-to-student teachbacks are very important and it is a very best technique. You can actually understand and digest information, and it lasts for long in the memory. Thank you so much. This is our lesson today, and if you have any questions, please interact with me on the e-learning page, and I'll be happy to answer all the questions. Thank you so much, and it is a great time to spend with you guys.